Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Ball and Breakfast podcast. I'm Patrick alongside Wayne. We're doing NFL draft again, this time in a different style. We've given you two renditions of the Chicago Bears and what they could do, coming up here in a few weeks. But as for today, we're going to run through the first round of the NFL draft with, the 31 teams that will be selecting players for the round. We will essentially go back and forth, Wayne and I. Wayne will start with the first pick, and I'll piggyback off with all the other even picks throughout the draft. He'll take all the odds, and we'll talk through why we're picking the player. We may have a mock trade of some kind in here where maybe we're swapping picks, but in the same sense, I think if there is a trade down or anything like that, if I'm holding that even pick, maybe there'll be some pushback or whatever it could be, but follow along with us. Wayne will put the graphics up as we go, so you can follow along at home. But feel free to comment on any of the picks, and in general, I just love your feedback. So, I guess without further ado, I'll turn it over to Wayne for the number one overall pick in this year's NFL draft.
Thanks, Pat. Yeah, and just for the record, I did flip like a mock coin, and I won this. So I'd like to just gloat a little bit on that first. So, but with the first pick. In the 2023 NFL draft, I have the Carolina Panthers, who we all know who traded for this pick from the Chicago Bears. I had them selecting. I'm going to go with Bryce Young. I definitely think that there's been this back and forth between CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. Frank Wright, there's been a lot of talk about him. Like, he normally doesn't like shorter quarterbacks. Like, I think there's like the history. He hasn't had a quarterback that he's coached that's been under 6'2", and then Bryce Young's like 5'10" or something like that. But at the same time, Bryce Young is such a good prospect, has that pocket presence, and I think he can definitely do some wonders for a Carolina Panthers team. There has a little bit more, maybe some more upside in my opinion, just of his scrambling ability and his pocket presence, just being able to kind of improvise and create those plays. So I have the Panthers picking Bryce Young here ahead of CJ Stroud. And, I think that'll be a good pick and good area for Bryce Young to kind of nurture himself in with Frank Wright. And I think they also got Andy Dalton as well. So, someone to learn under there. So overall, I think this is kind of a good fit for Bryce Young. Be nice, if they had DJ Moore, but they are, kind of loading up around them. So, but yeah, I have Bryce Young here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, one of the top two picks that have been floated out there for, the quarterback position for the Panthers, Texans as well. They've been kind of rumored up toward the top. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Bryce Young. I mean, obviously, I feel like he's got all the talent in the world. I'm wondering if, number one, his game will play at the pro level. Number two, whether or not he can stay healthy. I saw a little bit maybe last year of him, missing games in general. I just feel like with his size and stature, maybe worried if he takes some big hits early and often if his line's not padded in Carolina. How will that all play out for him in his career? I mean, I don't think he's a good comp with a guy like Manziel or Mayfield. But in the same sense, like, I just haven't seen enough 5'10" quarterbacks who are, the best of the best in the NFL. I mean, that's no slight against Bryce Young and everything he brings to the game. I'm going off of like a lot of the history, a lot of the experience of who excels at that next level. I'm poking holes here, but in the same sense, I feel like I have to because, I think CJ Stroud is amazing. I mean, we've seen him live at the highest level that he's possibly, been able to play at last year. I mean, he really showed out in, the college football playoff. He literally was, a score away from kind of being the national champions and taking Ohio State over that Georgia team that completely showed out in the final. Love the size of CJ Stroud and kind of his accuracy, his poise as a passer. He does kind of fit that Frank Reich scheme in general. And, I guess as far as my commentary, I'm kind of moving toward the number 2 overall pick. No surprises here. It's going to be CJ Stroud for me. I'm happy about that as the Houston Texans GM right now. But I just feel more, to be honest with you, the fact that he's had a great combine. I've seen him play. He's been pretty much healthy. He's got the size. He's probably athletic enough to kind of make up for any shortcomings they see there versus a guy like Bryce Young. But it's just like, to me, I feel like he's probably my 1A to Bryce Young's 1B.
Yeah, for sure. And, it is interesting. It's like, do you trade up for a player like a Bryce Young who does have those question marks of his size, durability, right? Because he is going to get hit. And, he actually probably is a better fit, quite honestly, in Houston. Maybe if we maybe want to look at it that way, with like the offensive line with Tunsil and everything at left tackle. So, maybe that is actually a better kind of fit there if you can keep both of those two together, having him protect his blind side. So, but I would agree. I think CJ Stroud probably is the better prospect at number 1. I just have, I guess, this gut feeling that maybe Bryce Young is going to be the first pick more so of. So, but with all that now, I guess we can move on to the Arizona Cardinals here. I did think honestly about a trade back here. They are ahead of the Indianapolis Colts, and there's a lot of quarterback hungry teams out there with Anthony Richardson's name kind of floating around, and then now that there's also this whole thinking about Lamar Jackson, maybe they trade for him, and the Ravens go up there and select Richardson. So that is certainly something there. But I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. I'm not going to get buy that here, at least. So all that being said, I have the Arizona Cardinals selecting Will Anderson here. I think he kind of fits in there as a pass rusher, one of the best pass rushers out there in the NFL draft this season. I think he can make an immediate impact, and you could probably expect, 10 sacks or something at his rookie season. So I think that's something you can expect from a Will Anderson. And with the Arizona Cardinals, they do have some offense. I think they can address some of their needs in like the guard, center position a little bit later, as well as cornerback might be a little bit too high here. So, with that, I have them selecting Will Anderson here.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that pick. I think from what everyone's been talking about as far as who's the safest defensive pick, defensive line pick, whatever it is, I feel like Will Anderson is it. If anything, the only critiques I've heard is that his upside, his ceiling may not be as high as a guy like Jalen Carter or a Tyree, Tyree Wilson.
I mean, you can call him Jesus if you want to. I'm sure he like that.
Tyree, Jesus. No, but I think that's been the only knock I've heard on the guy. But his ability has kind of shined through, and I think you're looking for a top end edge rusher from the draft. I don't think you can miss with Will Anderson Jr. And if you are, as the Arizona Cardinals, in a situation where the Colts are knocking on the door and going to offer you the number 4 overall and some change, like that'd probably be my first overall preference. But you never know. I mean, there's some other QB hungry teams that find themselves kind of like in the middle of the first round that may actually move up and may make a really enticing offer. And like you're saying with the Cardinals, you got your quarterback there, hopefully, for the future. I mean, he does have, he's got a lot of people have considered him somewhat of a head case, and he hasn't, stayed healthy enough at this point. But with Kyler Murray there and a lot of needs overall, I think a big package for a team that wants to move up and maybe, get that 3rd pick overall might be something to consider.
Yeah, for sure. Who do you got at 4?
At 4, I'm going to take Anthony Richardson. I feel like I could see the Colts maybe moving up. I mean, I don't think they want to. I don't think they, want to do what the Bears did a few years back with the 49ers, or, moving up one slot and giving up way too much draft capital. So I think they'll trust their gut in this situation, or, at the very least, if they're not jumping out of their seat about any of the quarterback prospects, maybe it is a situation where they're like, well, we'll just take best overall, no matter what happens with, the number 3 overall. So I think Anthony Richardson here makes a lot of sense. I mean, you bring in some sort of, veteran to just kind of, hold down the fort for the first half of the season while he gets kind of, used to the speed of the game, the transition from college, but overall, he broke the combine. He's got the size, the speed, running ability. There's, his athleticism is like off the charts, is like jumping out at you. And like sometimes that may not be the best indicator of like this guy's ready to be an NFL quarterback. But, we've just seen a lot of examples recently with like a Josh Allen. He's got maybe some traces of Lamar in there. I don't know if he's got like the same level of athleticism to him, but it's just like you get that much like tools out of one guy, and maybe all it takes is a good quarterback coach or a good veteran or whatever else it could be, player development within the organization to really bring him up to speed and like let him develop in his own right. So I think overall it's a risk that the Colts have to take, I feel like, at this point, because I think a lot of people looked at them with Matt Ryan last year and thought, this is a team that can be, maybe in the playoffs, maybe a division winner. They completely fell on their faces. So I still think there's some talent there. Shaq Leonard being out year after year has been kind of tough for them to, establish themselves on the defensive end. But, Michael Pittman Jr., JT, behind center, it's like, you got some stuff there to play with, and you just need a quarterback to kind of unleash all that. So I feel comfortable taking Richardson there.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I am the Colts, like, how do you not take Richardson? I think here with all the upside. I mean, like, I don't think Will Levis is it, right, for the third quarterback being taken here. So I definitely think there's a lot more love for Anthony Richardson out there. So and him, like, sure, we're in a year under, I guess, Gardner Minshew, or I think they have Nick Foles as well. So, have him, maybe 8 games in or something like that. There's a lot of talent on that team. They just need that quarterback, right? I think that's kind of the consensus around the Colts overall. They have a, great offense, maybe not great, but hey, they have a pretty good offensive line. They got some young wide receivers in there, Pittman and Pierce. Jonathan Taylor as well, like, still has a couple good years in him there. So having a young quarterback, they've had veteran quarterbacks come and go, political carousel. So I think, it's good for them to draft a young quarterback and have that talent around him, kind of just help him around. And I think that's a great fit for Anthony Richardson there. So, and then I guess moving on to the Seattle Seahawks with the 5th pick here. This will be the first of their 2 picks. So, I think I definitely think that they go defensive line. That was kind of the weakness. Really not the best in the run game on their defensive line there. So, I think it's been that battle between Jalen Carter, Tyree Wilson. I feel like the Seahawks, they've addressed the defensive tackle position just a little bit more. I do think that they'll probably draft a defensive tackle maybe a little bit later, whether it's in their first round pick or the second or third rounds. So I have them selecting Tyree Wilson, who I like. I think he's going to be a stud, athletic freak of nature, right? Has long arms, which you definitely want that defensive end position. Can also kind of slide in there at the 3 tech, not just sit on the outside. So I think that Pete Carroll would like that versatility. If he went with Jalen Carter, who does have his question marks, right? He's definitely much more of that, defensive tackle, nose tackle / 3 tech as well. So that's where I'm thinking, very much a disruptor, right? Again, if he's not, fat and getting into legal troubles, right? But with Tyree Wilson, I think that with the Seahawks and what they're trying to do, that they want to get some, a good kind of character person as well. I don't think there's really any question marks with Tyree Wilson in terms of his character. And then, he's kind of a physical beast. So I have, the Seahawks here taking Tyree Wilson.
Gotcha. No, I think that's fair. And, we don't know all the question marks around Carter, just as far as obviously his off the field stuff, his combine workouts, his interviews. There may be a lot of things that GMs are thinking about, and they don't want to kind of blow a pick and, fall further back. And in Seattle, they just have such a good system going that adding Wilson in there, somebody without a lot of, issues to kind of be concerned about outside of his talent, I think he'll kind of slate in pretty well. And he's already considered one of the top, edge rushers out there. So I think that's a great fit. At number 6, I'm going to take Jalen Carter. I feel like this is the spot where if I'm Detroit, pairing him with Aiden Hutchinson at the front of that defense, they went out and they got some secondary support in Sutton and Mosley in the offseason. GJ is out there at safety now, and he's really excited about, the team they're putting together. But I think this is a place where Detroit should go out and make that risk. If it blows up in their faces, they've learned the hard way. But, as far as game goes, everything that the, analysts have kind of picked with Jalen Carter's game, just, he's explosive, he's powerful, he can play the 3-tech, you can line up inside the tackles, just pure performance overall during college and everything else. I mean, the intangibles, maybe we worry about a little bit there, but, maybe he just needs a chance to kind of get everything that happened this offseason behind him and just kind of move forward and kind of, line himself up for a good future. And, right now, Detroit, honestly, is a hot place to be for like the first time in a long time. So I'm scared to death, of seeing him in our division, especially with what Detroit's been able to do lately. I really hope that in general he falls to number 9. I'd love to take that risk too and kind of give it a go. But I think he falls here at number 6.
Yeah, it feels like kind of like a Ndamukong Suh kind of situation, right? I feel like where he just fits kind of that mold, if you will. Kind of lunch pail and a little bit, crazy there every so often. So, but hey, we'll see. Let's give, I guess, Jalen Carter the benefit of the doubt on some of these things. I don't think he's had any type of legal troubles beforehand. So maybe this is just a nice situation for him to get in. Just like, okay, I'm just gonna play play out, just play some football and get to it there. So. Moving on to the next pick here with the Las Vegas Raiders. I did think about trading back, and part of me is hesitant to do so, but I just don't know necessarily what other team might jump in here. I don't think I think at this point in the draft, right after Anthony Richardson, it's like, I'm not too sure if there's any teams that are going to be jumping ahead to pick Will Levis. And I'm not too sure if any other teams are going to be picking or trading up to pick like another positional player of some sort. So a little bit hesitant there, but I could see somebody, if they are looking at maybe one of the DBs desperately, kind of jumping up here. But I have the Raiders. I have them selecting Christian Gonzalez here. I think he's got a little bit more upside than Devin Witherspoon at this point, just athletic as hell. And I think that's the key thing. A little bit larger too, if I'm not mistaken. So I think there's a little bit more upside. And I think, the Raiders, they tend to kind of go for a little bit more of those players. So Christian Gonzalez, I have here, 7th pick overall here.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I have my own concerns, like now that we're playing GM for all these teams and we're like, okay, who's next on the board? I kind of have the same concerns about like going out and reaching for the quarterback. I mean, no offense to Will Levis. It just kind of feels like, the Raiders put a lot of money into Jimmy G, and, is as much as I'd like to doubt the guy, the Raiders clearly aren't doubting him as much. They gave him a lot of guaranteed and they've got him for 3 years. So I just don't see that desperation there. I think that's a good prediction that they pivot from quarterback in that spot. And at this point, when you're starting off the draft, I think it's just take the best available player. And whether or not that's like the largest need of that team, I think you could go no wrong with having a shutdown quarterback like Gonzalez there. So I think that's a pretty solid pick.
Thank you. Who do you got next?
I got Devon Witherspoon for the Atlanta Falcons at number 8. I was kind of following your same logic because I think the Raiders and the Falcons are in similar positions. They're looking for a quarterback, but in the same sense, last year the Falcons went out and got Desmond Ridder, and, he still hasn't had a real opportunity to prove himself. I mean, Mariota was kind of blocking his spot all last year, and, they also drafted Drake London. So I'm thinking there at that spot, like wide receiver may not be, the most needed thing if they still don't have somebody that they trust to pass it to him. So I kind of thought that, Witherspoon, just with his, overall grade and kind of analysis, is just like this guy could be, the island type of quarterback or cornerback, I should say, in the sense that, not a lot of balls are getting caught when he's covering guys. And in the same sense, it's like he's smart. He's able to kind of, play that one-on-one coverage. He's somebody that they, would consider one of the two guys, at least at the top of the draft, that are, lockdown cornerback picks. So, with that being such a premium in the game itself today, why not have him out there to block guys like, Olave or Mike Evans or others in that division, and whoever else may come into Atlanta. But maybe just taking a step back from offense and more or less honing in on the defense, which has been so poor over the last several seasons now.
Yeah. I think that's a good pick. I do like Witherspoon. I think he's, going to be a stud of a cornerback in the NFL. I know there's been a lot of talk about Nolan Smith, right? I know he got injured last year, and does it make sense to draft somebody that, who didn't play that much last year at all? I think he might have had a couple games here and there, if I'm not mistaken. So, but, hometown kind of kid and everything. And I think, they definitely could use some pass rushing there. I think they do play a 3-4 as well. So perfect mode there. And, tested through the roof. I think he ran like a 4.3 as an edge rusher, which is pretty nuts and everything. So, and if you listen to him, like he's nailed all the interviews. Like he sounds like next president of the United States as well. So it's like hitting all those points, hometown person. So, I mean, I would probably go there if I were that picking for the Atlanta Falcons there. But yeah, I think they go defense here. I think there's, even though with Ritter, they definitely have some offensive talent already. They just have a lot more defensive holes, and then I can definitely see that. So whether it is, Nolan Smith or Devin Witherspoon. So, and then I guess, hey, this is our pick over here now. Yeah, with the 9th pick, we've already done a couple mock drafts here, and I did think about, do I go a little bit crazier here, something alternative than previously? I have to go with Paris Johnson. Has the most upside and probably has the lowest ceiling amongst all the defensive linemen or offensive linemen here. I know there's been a lot of talk whether we draft Paris Johnson versus Peter Skoronski. I know he's shorter arms and stuff like that. And then also potentially JSN is another conversation piece as well, kind of teaming up with Justin Fields. But Paris Johnson, I know he played that 1 year at left tackle for Ohio State. But you look at him, you look at his tape, he's basically a left tackle. Like that's how he's built. From my understanding, when he was with Ohio State, they had him at right guard, so I guess he has some positional flexibility, but they had him at right guard specifically because all the rest of their offensive linemen, they were basically just tackles. Like, we talked about DeJuan Jones, right? Big guy, like 6'8", 350. That's not a guard whatsoever. So, I think he played a couple years at right tackle there. So for me, Paris Johnson, let's try not to overthink it. If he's there, like even if Jalen Carter is there at 9, I feel like Paris Johnson is just the best pick here. So Paris Johnson, let's protect Justin Fields, shore up that offensive line there.
That sounds good. I mean, we had a whole episode about, the Bears and everything in our 2.0 recently. So if you guys haven't caught that yet, go back and check it out. Wayne did pick Paris Johnson in that one. And I think I had JSN going to the Bears, Jackson Smith and Jigba. But yeah, you can't go wrong. I mean, I feel like, my biggest fear is just the Bears, swinging and missing at O-line over the last 10 years or so when it comes to the first round. And just don't want to continue to see that happen. But I think Paris Johnson's a pretty safe bet to be, professional and, be a starter in the NFL for many years going forward. I'm just, fingers crossed. I feel like, maybe it's part of the Bears curse or something like that. And, wanting to see us be an explosive offense with a guy like JSN. But you got to have, the house in place before you can start, throwing on a new roof and all this other good stuff. I feel like you need that foundation, and maybe O-line would be the smart pick there.
Yeah, go Bears.
Go Bears. Number 10, Philly. Philly's got 2 picks in the first round. They got the 10 and the 30. This was kind of tough. I mean, I feel like they have some holes to fill now. I mean, I feel like a lot of their vets have either taken off or they're kind of going into some of their last years here. And, it looks like they could use some help on the offensive line. Maybe it's, the defensive side with losing some of their, defensive linemen in the offseason here. I think Jalen Carter, if it fell to them, be a dream come true. I think everybody's kind of looking at stuff like that. But in the same sense, I mean, I feel like at this point in the draft with kind of the at least on the top end guys, I feel like a guy like Peter Skoronski would be a perfect fit for them actually, because, they're looking for guard help. They're looking for center help. Kelsey's probably in his last year here. Not sure, Lane Johnson, others on that line, like, how old they may be, but if they have an immediate guard need, I think Skoronski's the perfect fit, because everything that we've been kind of concerned about with the Bears, grabbing him there is that, is he your traditional left tackle? Like, probably not. They say he's very versatile, which probably plays, well into his game. Like, if there were any injuries on the Eagles line, maybe you could slot, him out, maybe try him at tackle, if that's, going to be a good fit for them too. But it just feels like there, is a certain stable of offensive linemen, offensive tackles at the top of this draft, where it's like, once you start slipping back into the second round, you can start poking some holes in some guys and start having some doubts about how great of a fit they might be on the front, the front of the offense. So I'll go with Skoronski here. There's a couple other guys that stood out to me, but if I, was picking for the Eagles, I'm looking at getting back into the Super Bowl. I just need to make sure that all my starting slots are filled with the, highest upside, best maximized, pick for the, for the position that I can possibly find. So I'll go there.